Now, before we dive into any demo or any code, let's understand how React apps do talk to databases. And as you can tell by the title of this slide, it's not working as you maybe thought it works. Because React apps, or in general, browser-side apps, browser-side code, so JavaScript code running in the browsers, should never directly talk to a database. So if you have a React app and then some kind of database, SQL database, a NoSQL database like MongoDB, it does not matter. If you have such a database running on some database server, then of course you might want to fetch and store some data and you might want to establish a connection, but that's not what you should do and that's not what you'll ever see out there in the wild unless it's a highly insecure and bad written application. Because if you would directly connect to a database, if we leave aside that this will technically be challenging, but if you would do that, if you would directly connect to a database server from inside your client side, your browser side JavaScript code, you would expose your database credentials in that code. Because you must never forget that all JavaScript code running in the browser can be accessed and read not just by the browser, but also by the users of your website. Simply open up the developer tools and you can view all the code there. This generally is no problem, and attached you find a more detailed article and video which I created on this. But of course it will become a problem if you expose security relevant details in your code. For example, credentials that allow access to a database. In addition, directly connecting to a database could also bring other problems like performance issues, but the security problem is the biggest problem of all. So therefore, instead of directly talking to a database from inside your React app code, you always take another route. You have a backend application running on another machine, not running in the browser, but running on some server out there. Maybe on the same server as the database, often on a different server though. Now, this backend application can be written with any server-side language of your choice. Node.js, PHP, ASP.NET, everything is possible. And it's this backend application which will do the talking to the database. Because you can safely store and use database credentials on the backend application, since that backend code can't be viewed by your users. It's on a different server and the users of your website will never see that code. And therefore, the React app will then talk to that backend server, to that backend API typically, which is a server which exposes different URLs requests can be sent to, and we're going to see this throughout this section. And then you have a safe connection to the database, because the credentials are on this backend app, and for talking to the backend app, no security relevant details are needed. This is how this works, and this is what we're going to see in action in this course module.